What's up guys, it's your boy Beardcrafts back with another game review. In this edition, we're traveling back in time to the lands of Esso, breaking down samurai showdowns in Suckerunch Studios' Ghost of Yotei. Did Sucker Punch deliver with another samurai epic, or was the new Ghost more Casper than Onryo? Released exclusively on PS5, Sucker Punch brings us back into their meticulously crafted samurai world with the sequel of Ghost of Tsushima. While carrying on the namesake, Ghost of Yotei isn't a direct sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, as we see a departure of protagonist Jin Sakai. In his place, we meet the scorned warrior Atsu, a brutal woman with a simple motive but a complicated past. Players are thrust into the story as we assume the role of Atsu as a child in her family's homestead, a beautiful scene in the shadow of Mount Yotei. The elegant and vibrant homestead becomes scarred by violence and fire as the vicious gang, the Yotei Six, slaughter Atsu's family at the command of their leader, Lord Saito. Lord Saito, a disgraced leader, began his march to overthrow the shogun through violence and bloodshed, ruling through fear and blind loyalty. His message to cement his reign of terror on the land is to pin Atsu to a tree by sword. As they leave the homestead, one of the six sets the tree ablaze. The young wolf Atsu, set to die on a burning tree, escapes and vows to bring her family's killers to justice. Ghost of Yotei tells a simple story through a complex web of characters and intersecting intentions. I was seldom surprised by the twists of the story, and much of what you experience on the surface feels like another revenge story fueled by the tragic death of a loved one. For me, however, I found myself less interested in the surface plot regarding the death of the Yotei Six, but invested in how Atsu would reveal more about herself through the relationships and alliances she made along the way. While her bloodlust for the Yotei Six is presented as her defining character trait, through strategic flashback, we get a glimpse into the models of ideals, honor, empathy, and skills Atsu's parents instilled in her. We see the musician Atsu, the painter, the weaponsmith, the sister, and the daughter. We're given many layers of her character, and rather than just giving us those moments strictly in the past, Ghost of Yotei effortlessly weaves those histories into how Atsu problem solves and how she communicates through the world. While I think 90% of this is good storytelling, and you do get a good balance of Atsu between the past and present, it's something you do have to remind yourself of when faced with some of the more conflicting elements of her character. Unlike Jin from Ghost of Tsushima, Atsu is not a formal samurai, and hardly a ronin. She's a jack of all trades and a skilled warrior who learned by forced survival, something made very clear by her do-whatever-it-takes approach to killing. There is no moral quandary to the actions of the ghost, there is no dishonor in killing someone unannounced. Atsu is a character that has a deep sense of connection to the values instilled in her, forced to sacrifice most of them to achieve her goal of slaughtering the Yotei Six. The blind revenge aspect of Atsu just feels kind of like a disservice to her complexities and my least favorite part of her narrative. So in the most basic sense, you have a character pushed to the brink of death, sat on a revenge plot, who learns that maybe revenge isn't as clear as it looks when you start. It's not the most revolutionary story, and we've definitely seen it in the Sony lineup before, but I think Sucker Punch does a great job of weaving complexity and depth through Atsu and the wolf pack she surrounds herself with. Atsu is a great character, and I'm all in on her journey. Maybe just not as excited about the main story. I don't think I walked away from the narrative with the impact I did with Ghost of Tsushima, but that doesn't mean I'm discounting it. There's plenty of good to be had, and a ton of nuggets of gold to be found in Ghost of Yotei's story overall. When Sucker Punch released Ghost of Tsushima, they released one of the best samurai action titles in history. The sense of wonder through exploration, combined with a dynamic and challenging combat system that leveled its challenge with reward, Ghost of Tsushima delivered in gameplay in just about every way you can imagine. In fact, it built a pretty steep hill to climb after, but I think it's fair to say that Ghost of Yotei climbed that mountain to sit with its predecessor. Like Tsushima, Ghost of Yotei is an open-world action game loaded with side quests, bounties, lore entries, cosmetics, and a laundry list of items to find outside of the main story. I, like many others in the past few years, have felt the fatigue of massive games with a list of hundreds of collectibles and the ire it draws running to the smallest nook of the world to get a single chest. But Ghost of Yotei, like its predecessor, makes exploration one of the defining elements of the game. And how they do it is by making exploration entirely up to how you engage with the world. You can purchase maps that lead you to a secret, fast travel to a nearby location, or simply pin in and ride your horse. Or you can just simply explore the world. You may be thinking, no duh. But the Ghost series really makes exploring the world feel natural as you travel the distinct and vibrant map. Exploration is marked by golden birds leading you to secret treasures in proximity, traders and farmers with missions as you confront traveling bands of ronins, or simply a crimson tree looming over a sea of golden leaves. The world is marked by a myriad of unique environmental models and areas that lure you in by their sheer uniqueness and beauty. One of the more unique departures from its predecessor, Ghost of Yotei is a little bit more forceful about exploring. You really have to engage in the world because most skill upgrades are found behind altars of reflection. Simply put, one shrine equals one ability point. Rather than having the player increase their legend rank through bounties, side quests, and combat, Ghost of Yotei allows you to tailor your story more adequately to your playstyle. While you're not forced to help every person struggling on the side of the road, there's oftentimes gains to be had. In terms of navigating the world on foot, if you're not a fan of the Uncharted-style navigation and climbing of cliffside edges, prepare yourself for another entry in the PlayStation first-party lineup. As you explore, you will find torii gates leading you to shrines all over Esso. The shrine paths are always incredibly detailed, very individualized, and offer challenging but fun parkour to reach your destination. There wasn't a single shrine I ventured to that felt like I was looking at a rinse and repeat copy-paste location. Sucker Punch also knows how good they cooked, as the camera work for these parkour shrine moments are designed to let you soak in the incredible scenery as soon as you arrive, panning out. If you played Ghost of Tsushima, you're going to be familiar with Ghost of Yotei's general upgrade loop. You're still looking for hot springs to upgrade health and reflect on your journey, bamboo strikes to upgrade your spirit, and an artistic reflection to gain gear and other customization items. I don't want to give away all the new side stops, but one of the newer and more unique side adventures in Ghost of Yotei are wolf dens. These are incredibly cinematic experiences that end in just a badass battle back-to-back with a fierce wolf. The wolf dens increase your connection with the wolf and allow for new skills and effects that allow you to summon the wolf in combat and in enemy strongholds. While exploration is the main vehicle for upgrades, there are plenty of rewards by following the story, seeking out legends and myths, and tracking down side quests. The overall function of Atsu's gears and ability are very similar to Gen's from Ghost of Tsushima. There are tons of visual customization options to be had with Atsu's headwear and masks, and a great selection of armors that alter the way you play. Some are designed for stealthy, ghost gameplay, while others look for mastery of your weapons. There are plenty of charms that augment your playstyle, ranging from easier bow lock-on to gaining health when performing perfect parries. You can further upgrade charms by completing tasks outlined on the charm itself. If you haven't picked it up, Ghost of Yotei's action is very similar to its predecessor with some notable changes. Jin was a master samurai, and his stances with his katana marked his ability to handle different enemies of varying size and skill. For Atsu, she is a student of many teachers, and as a result, deadly with a multitude of weapons. Mechanically, Gen's stances function the exact same way that Atsu's different weapons do. She has the dual katana for enemies with spears, while specializing in the heavy odachi for brute enemies. Similarly to Gen, Atsu also has a light and heavy bow, with the addition of firearms in this iteration, as well as a suit of quick throwables, from the still busted smoke bombs to the deadly kunai. My biggest critique of the new weapon system is the very weird hand-holding the game feels it needs to give players. Whenever you unlock a new weapon, the game forces you into a mini pop quiz where you must show your master what weapon you would use when faced with specific enemies. It just feels like an odd break in immersion. I imagine it's something that came through in testing, people just not knowing which weapons to use against what enemies, but we can just add it to the list of immersion breaking necessities like yellow paint for climbing. I don't hold it against Ghost of Yotei, but it is annoying. Once your arsenal is stacked, combat is silky smooth and one of the best parts of Ghost of Yotei. There is something just so much more satisfying to switching out weapons mid-fight than changing stances with Gen. Combat is a beautiful poem of violence and harmony that feels as satisfying as it looks. Enemies in Ghost of Yotei vary little from Tsushima and have similar archetypes. You have your basic katana wielders, spear users, kusarigama users, heavy brutes, shield bearers, and ranged enemies. Due to the way the game groups them, you are consistently swapping weapons in combat if you want to be effective at breaking stances. One of the coolest and most overpowered changes in Ghost of Yotei is how you utilize weapons you've disarmed. Just about every weapon can be picked up mid-fight and hurled at enemies. With the right charm combo, this is a one-shot kill to just about any enemy, making it a lethal addition to Atsu's arsenal. Give or take some small nuances, the flow of combat functions the same, with attack patterns that require parry, some unblockable techniques that require a dodge or a roll, and a disarming attack. This same structure is found in the harrowing boss fights you face in Ghost of Yotei. Essentially, these bosses are just pumped up versions of the archetypes I mentioned, with a few advanced techniques you must track. Boss fights offer a beautiful cinematic experience and just an overall cool environment to fight, which makes the sometimes small reward you get worth it overall. All things considered, there are plenty of bosses to engage with around the world that have unique cosmetic rewards and money to earn upon beating them outside of just the main story. Similar to Ghost of Tsushima, I feel Ghost of Yotei's stealth is just kind of easy. I don't knock Yotei for this because it's a problem stealth games have had for some time. You either make stealth kills guaranteed, or you try to make it vary by level and skill similar to Assassin's Creed Origin, and then the fanbase loses their mind. I will always prefer the immediate kill over a damage system, but it just makes it feel like enemy strongholds are a breeze because your powerful arsenal coupled with the strategically crafted camps make conquering them in stealth feel less of a challenge and more like a speed bump. They definitely fuse some unique elements in various strongholds, like leaders taking hostages, but ultimately I find myself just doing camps going fully loud because the combat feels 10 times more rewarding. I will note, one of my biggest complaints with Ghost of Tsushima is how clunky the stance change and the change from quickfire weapons and long-range weapons felt, and it persists in Ghost of Yotei. So many times in battle I find myself switching quickfire weapons and I'm meaning to switch to my main weapons. I don't know the best way to improve this system with how fluid they want everything to feel, but it's definitely killed me a few times fumbling through all the menus with similar inputs. All of this to say, you've probably noticed a through line in this breakdown of the gameplay. The like its predecessor element of Ghost of Yotei is apparent in just about every aspect. Ghost of Yotei is a proper sequel that takes the near-perfect presentation in Tsushima and builds off those foundations in a myriad of ways. Ghost of Tsushima was a 10 out of 10 game for me. As one of the last games in the PS4 lifecycle, it accomplished so much for a significantly smaller budget than many of Sony's other first-party outings. When they announced a sequel, I found myself incredibly excited, but as the dust settled, I thought, what can they actually do? And while I think Ghost of Yotei did a great job of making itself feel pronounced and unique, adding a few new concepts and ideas that didn't make the game feel bloated with leads to chase, I could not help but think this is a more aesthetically pleasing Ghost of Tsushima. I strongly believe that you shouldn't fix something that isn't broken, but it's not a game that is striving for series of innovations. In this regard, Ghost of Yotei is a beautiful return to the technical feel and world building that Sucker Punch gave us in Tsushima, and if all you're looking for is another round in a similar but different environment, the game is going to scratch that itch in every way. I don't say this negatively, I just say it to taper expectations because Sucker Punch gave us a technical masterpiece in Ghost of Tsushima, and Ghost of Yotei is just building on top of the bones of that greatness. With all of my praise, it is important to mention I experienced a few more bugs with Ghost of Yotei than I did Tsushima. Sucker Punch has been quick to remedy some game-breaking things like locked story progression, but I found myself encountering situations where I wasn't able to loot bosses and claim their armor, requiring a quick reload for their body to properly spawn in a lootable area, as well as just some inconsistencies in collision detection when in parkour. Honestly, these were just minor things that I felt along the way that were missing some polish.
Not this time.
As well as a couple hilarious things like foxes launching into space or enemies that you spared just running around in circles. While most of the things were minor issues and there is very little punishment to death or falling off a cliff, the little nuisances add up. Again, this is just a minor clunk in a game that is smooth as butter, but you know it's good when I have to nitpick to such a degree and find those small things to note in this review. Ghost of Yotei being built for the PS5 allows us to see in depth the tricks Sucker Punch has learned since they started down this path of fidelity first presented with infamous Second Son. Ghost of Yotei is breathtaking. Taking full advantage of the PS5's upgraded GPU and CPU has allowed Sucker Punch to implement a ton of particles, textures, and intricacies that were missing from Tsushima to help the beautiful island of Esso blossom. Implementing ray tracing makes the volumetric lighting flutter through tree canopies majestically. The dance of foliage and light as Atsu battles through the scenery is a sight to see and a joy to experience hands-on. Ghost of Yotei is incredibly cinematic, only improving on the astounding art direction of its predecessor. There are major improvements to motion capture and facial animations that make the intensity of standoffs feel like watching a true samurai classic. The improved weather system is awesome. Watching heavy fog roll over as snowfall comes in is very dramatic and harrowing. The amount of actual objects in the world is truly impressive. I found myself just pressing Atsu through trees, branches, and brush to see how many things actually react to her physics. Watching you and your horse run through snow was honestly mind-blowing. But even further, Atsu's stance physically changes in deeper snow. Her movement slows and forward progress diminishes the deeper you go in the snow. This type of detail is never necessary, but an excellent push towards total digital immersion with games. And all of this technical jargon doesn't even matter when you just look at it. Photo mode for me is basically a third major branch of the gameplay loop.
Told you. We're gonna hang out. Gonna watch a movie. Gonna take some pictures.
I finished Ghost of Yotei 100% with over 70 hours, easily 20 of those being photo mode. I feel like I could go on and on about the graphical experience from the gameplay and cinematics down to the UI. The map is gorgeous and the menus are easy to navigate and just a joy to look at. The superimposed images of Atsu for all of her techniques is a simple visual, but it's so striking in the black and white menu. All of this is supported by the absolutely stunning score and sound design in Ghost of Yotei. I always love a game where their main character is also a musician. It opens the door for a lot of cool moments, and Atsu is no different as a shamisen player. As beautiful as the shamisen is, there's just a stunning range of music in Ghost of Yotei. There was never a time I found the music to be intrusive. It always complemented the scenario, whether it was an epic 1v1 duel, or an intense chase on horseback, to the serene and gentle strums of A Memory with Your Mother. The same level of intricate detail around the particles and graphics is found within the Foley as well. The sounds of combat are electric. The intensity of the footwork through different weather systems, the crunching of snow or the splashing of puddles, juxtaposed to the clashing of steel or the jostling of chains, the smashing of wood and spears. Ghost of Yotei is alive in the combat and the environment. With how frantic and intense it can be, it's honestly so peaceful just letting the game exist in the background and listen to the change of the time and weather. This, coupled with the excellent voiceover work in both English and Japanese, both experiences were sensational, and the upgraded motion capture and facial animations make the emotional performances feel meaningful and powerful. 5 years since Ghost of Tsushima, and Sucker Punch delivers another exceptional game with Ghost of Yotei. In just about every way, Yotei takes the foundation Tsushima laid and improves on it greatly. Without overextending itself too much, Yotei adds some unique experiences and clever additions that make Atsu's journey feel different enough to inspire constant intrigue and urge the players through the blood-soaked revenge tale. While the narrative is something I feel didn't bring much to the table of the revenge story structure, Atsu as a character is incredibly dynamic, and learning about her journey to becoming the Onryo and how she lives with that legend is fascinating. It's one filled with emotionally complex histories and a surprisingly empathetic character capable of real growth and reflection. Supported by a great cast of characters to aid in her quest, Atsu's story is the biggest departure from Ghost of Tsushima and one that'll take you about 35 hours to complete. The side activities are pretty fun, but if you found yourself reluctant to repeat the gameplay loop in Ghost of Tsushima, Yotei is not going to revolutionize the systems in a way that draws you in. The world Atsu inhabits is a sensational and elegant scenescape marred with strife and violence that feels alive and ripe for exploration. Ghost of Yotei is a technical marvel and an artistic gem that improves on the beauty of Ghost of Tsushima in every way with the power of modern tech and the skills of Sucker Punch as a dev studio. All of this to say, Ghost of Yotei seems to play it safe in terms of innovation. There isn't really much added that feels so unique and notable that makes Yotei strikingly different than Tsushima. Personally, I don't think that's a bad thing. It comes as an exciting return to a handcrafted world and great storytelling Sucker Punch has been known for. But if you were looking to Yotei to reinvent the wheel and maintain Tsushima's excellence, it handles the latter flawlessly while making sure to follow the formula pretty safely. All in all, Ghost of Yotei lands a strong 9 out of 10. Atsu is a great character, just as Gen was, but Gen's story was more compelling to me overall. That is in no way to discount what Atsu brings to the table. Erika Ishii's performance as Atsu feels more dynamic than what we experience from Daisuke Tsuji as Gen. Ezo is a beautiful playground with a massive list of things to see and explore that left me entertained for hours. If the future of the Ghost franchise is strictly just more badass samurai action in different parts of Japan, keep giving me a great lead and you'll find me there. But I'll come expecting a slightly better version of the same thing on the next go. Thank you so much for your time. Please like and subscribe and let me know what your favorite part of Ghost of Yotei was, or if you liked Tsushima more. Thanks again, and until next time.